Hey there, Streakers. We are looking forward to talking with you today. Jami and I have a fantastic guest who's with us. And I thought just to do it just a little bit different, he has so many great recommendations on LinkedIn. I thought I'd just read to you just a little bit about what people say about him in regards to working with him and being with him. It says, one of the persons who recommended him said that he was challenged and empowered to stretch and grow in his skills and capabilities. Our guest is an excellent leader, a marketing savant, and an absolute blast to be around. I can't wait to get to work with him again in the future. So we're looking forward to talking with him. Another individual said, worked with him for over a year and he managed to bring out the best in everyone. He always gets the job done and has a lot of fun along the way. He's a true leader who puts forth his best effort in all he does. His creativity and leadership add positive influence in all work environments. He works currently at Silicon Slopes. Before that, he worked for a startup called Linked, and right now he's married with a baby girl on the way. Streakers, let's welcome to the show Mr. Ryan Boswell, and let's get streaking.
Hey, Ryan, thanks for coming on this morning.
You bet. So exciting to be here.
We are excited to talk to you. So it was fun listening to all the things that people were saying about you, and it got me intrigued to kind of tell us a little bit. It seems that you have a passion for startups and entrepreneurial ventures. Tell us a little bit about where that comes from and how you got interested in that.
Yeah, well, if I were to go back and pinpoint the very first startup that I ever did, when I was in the 7th grade, I figured out how to make duct tape wallets. And I had this idea. I was like, I bet I could sell duct tape wallets at the school. So I made a couple different iterations. I used clear tape to be able to do ID holders. And I had this whole business model around duct tape wallets in the 7th grade. And that was kind of where it got started. A couple of years later, when I was about 13, I got introduced to social media and I had this idea of, I wonder if I could create content for brands. So when I was 13, I cold emailed 300 longboard companies and said, if you send me a longboard, I'll make you a YouTube video. And that was kind of how I got started in social media. A couple of weeks later, I had a longboard show up at my doorstep and I started creating content, and it's kind of history from there. So graduated, I grew up in Chicago, came out here in 2016 for college. Originally, I did 2 years at UVU, took a 2-year break in between those 2 years for a mission trip for my church. And then in 2019, came back and did a second year at UVU. And then when COVID hit, I actually dropped out of college and just transitioned into startups from there. So I've worked with 3 early stage startups officially on their teams. And then I've done a bunch of consulting and advising for early stage startups since on the marketing and growth side, and have this huge passion for the state of Utah and absolutely love the ecosystem and what's being built here. And so I wanted to transition out of startups just a little bit into an organization that helps startups grow and helps convene the ecosystem in a way where it makes sense for everyone to work together. So that's a little bit of my history with startups and entrepreneurial ventures over time.
How fun. I mean, absolutely. I have like 1,000 questions on all the different startups that you had, which, well, I will only ask a couple of them.
First of all, I just love the duct tape story.
Yeah,
we'll
duct
start
tape.
with that.
I mean, let's start there. I mean, the duct tape, where in the world did the duct tape, was it just like, you know what, I need a wallet, I'm making a duct tape wallet?
Yeah, as I reflect a little bit on the themes of my life, usually if I don't have something, I'll usually just figure out a way to go out and make it. So I think back to, as I got into content, I remember this one time I made like a PVC pipe rig that I could mount my GoPro onto so I could hold it while I was longboarding. Just like random things like that, where it would be like, I don't necessarily have this right now, but I know that I have a need for it. So I'm going to go out and make it. And then I also realized, if I don't have that, there's also probably other people that have a need for it as well. So duct tape wallets was a thing that my friend introduced for me. And then I started using it at school, and other people around me started being like, oh, I want one of those. I want one of those. And I learned the economics lesson of supply and demand very quickly, and
Yes.
learned about introducing new product styles and new colors of duct tape and designs. And it was fun. I can't believe that was like 15, 20 years ago. But yeah, it's crazy to think back and realize like how long ago I was doing those duct tape wallets. So it was a fun time.
So as you look at that, I mean, it sounds to me like your parents were very supportive of that type of startup and creativity.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. They did question a little bit when I had a $250 longboard show up at my house.
How did you get this for free?
Yeah, it was before the time of influence and their influencers, and they're like, you need to send that back. Like, you didn't pay for it. And I was like, that's not really how it works. So they were always very supportive of me. And I've always been a little bit more on the creative kind of, I've got ADHD. I was diagnosed with ADHD a year and a half ago. And so I've always kind of been this like very energetic ball of energy and enthusiasm. And I'll just kind of go out and do whatever I feel like I want / need to do. So
I just love that. I love that you said, when I needed something, I just figured out a way to make it. And it's so funny that you should say that, because I was talking about about my son this morning. I was talking about this with my son this morning. Just the concept of, when you hit a roadblock, you don't just stop, you find a way to solve it. And it seems like you kind of recognized that early, or innately kind of had a desire to not be stopped by roadblocks, but to just look at it and be like, well, I'm just going to figure out how to solve this myself, which is a huge, amazing attribute.
yeah, and expanding on that just a little bit more, for the longest time, I thought that it was like, only I'm the person that's able to make that a reality. Like, I have to go figure out how to make it, or I have to figure out, what I need to do in order to get X, Y, Z. And in the spring of 2021, I read the book Who Not How by Dan Sullivan. I'm not sure if you guys have read that book.
No.
But it's a book
Okay.
all on this concept of, rather than being a person that knows how to do everything, you have people in your life that know how to do individual things that you can work with together to, as a team, accomplish this concept of success. So, while I am maybe a specialist in social media, there's times where I've worked with chiropractors. When I need a chiropractor visit, I help them out with their social media. So maybe I don't have to pay for chiropractic services, right? And so it's kind of this concept of like, being a master of 1 to 2 skills that you can work with other people on, that there's a need and a demand for those skills to help people out in the long run, but not having to know how to do everything, which is what I thought it used to be. I used to think that I had to know how to do every single thing under the blue. So
I think this is I'm really glad you brought this up, because it's something I've been thinking a lot about, is the concept of gathering people together and how much synergy happens when you harness the resources of a lot of people, versus that feeling like that you're an island and you have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's something that has always been there, and it's easier to see now that we have social media that kind of creates that environment, or if it's something that's newer that we're starting to recognize. But you would always say it's not what you know, but who knows you.
Yeah, it's not what you know, and it's not who you know. It's who knows you.
Who knows you.
That's more important.
That helps. And so getting to know people and being able to, and then I love what you said, is that as you're getting to know people, you're bringing something to the table, but also looking at what are they bringing to the table and how can we collaborate. And I really do think that that's almost more, it's almost more important to be able to learn that skill than it is to learn, like you said, a whole bunch of skills. That if you can learn a skill and then say, this is what I'm bringing to the table, but then also learn the skill of how to recognize other people and harness and develop those relationships so that you create synergy within whatever project or group or environment you're working in.
Yeah, I agree. And that's actually one of the first lessons I learned after I kind of left the higher education program and just transitioned into the workforce. I had this innate feeling when I was in school that it was very individualistic, and it was very like me against the other people in my class. Even though we would work on group projects and we would collaborate, I noticed very quickly that when you get out into the real world and start working on real projects with real people, the thing that I noticed was just the importance of collaboration and consistency with collaboration. And that teamwork goes way farther than one individual trying to build their own team or build their own empire themselves. But it goes way farther when you have the actual experts on a certain field or topic working together with one vision to accomplish a goal that they're working towards.
You just said one of our key words, consistency, and consistency and collaboration. As you look at streaking, I mean, streaking is all about being consistent. When you say consistency and collaboration, what's behind that thought? What are some of the things you think about?
Well, the best example is probably going to be the most recent startup that I was at. So I worked for the mechanical engineer behind the Ring doorbell. We had a new business smart device platform that we were working on. Really, really cool company. And the skills that I saw that this person that I worked for, his name was also Ryan, one of my favorite people that I've ever worked with. He just had this incredible ability to convene the right people that knew how to get things done. And before, I had just been working in software, and this was kind of the first time that I had ever worked with connecting hardware with software. And that was a totally different thing for me. Like 2 years previously, I had been in a marketing program at UVU, and I, wasn't too sure exactly what the future was going to pan out and look like. And so, as I started working with Ryan, I noticed that he just had this ability to convene the right people on certain topics that knew software development, mechanical engineering, that knew marketing and sales, business development, partnerships. Like, that consistency and collaboration was way more than just like a CEO leading a company and saying, we're going to do this, and I hired you people to do this job. Rather than that, most people were there working and knew how to apply their expertise and their skills and abilities in a way where the team could be consistent and they could collaborate simultaneously to accomplish the vision of what we were trying to build.
That's really good.
Yeah. As you look at that and press forward now, one of the questions that I had for you as you were talking, I was just thinking about the idea that you had to make the decision to not go to college anymore and to just go into the workforce. That had to be a rough decision. I mean, because there's a lot of pressure to keep your higher education going until you get the degree. And so you had to face that head on. What were some of the things that you were thinking about, that you felt, what went into that decision?
I am a really, really big fan of college. And I know that I'm kind of an outlier here. Let me explain my process as to why I decided to drop out of college. I had undiagnosed ADHD at the time, and I didn't know that. And so when COVID hit in the spring of 2020, I knew I was going to struggle with online school. I struggled with school as it was. Like, I'm a very creative brain thinker. And so if I'm going to be expected to sit down in my room and listen to Zoom calls and do notes on my own, I thrive off of human connection and human interaction in person. So COVID was tough for me, period. I had to relearn social skills. It was rough. But when COVID hit, I knew I was going to struggle with that online school. And so I kind of started to think, I was like, I wonder if there's other options for me. I know that college is necessary for a lot of degrees, law degrees, medical degrees. My wife is an echocardiologist tech at Utah Valley Hospital. And I would hope that anyone that's in the medical field gets their proper degree and certification, right? For me though, I noticed I actually only took one marketing class in college, and that was the class that made me want to drop out of college. So
there it was. It did its job.
Not because I felt like I knew everything. I didn't know. I barely knew anything. But I realized in that class that I was going to be in this program for 3 to 4 years of things that I felt like I could learn quicker on the job with on-the-job experience. And so I kind of made that leap, and I joined a startup in June of 2020, and I had been with them for about 2 to 3 months. And right when I was about to enroll for college, I had this gut feeling. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to balance doing both of these things. I feel like I need to make a decision here. And so I made the decision to drop out. And the biggest worry of mine was, holy cow, my family's going to think I'm insane. We're in the middle of the pandemic. We've got all these things going on. And to give context, my family is ingrained in education. I have 2 grandpas that worked in higher education and worked at BYU and the University of Utah. I've got a grandma that was a school teacher. My dad has a master's. My mom has a master's. I've got multiple siblings and sibling-in-laws with masters, and I dropped out of college.
One of these things is doing his own thing.
That's right.
Nothing new here. Ryan's always doing his own thing. Hopefully it turns out okay. And that was my biggest worry for the first couple months of dropping out. I really worried what my family was going to think of me. I didn't feel like dropping out of college was something that really would impact me that much, because my personal take is, when it comes to a marketing degree, I didn't know that if I were to stick it out in school, if it would really help me that much in pursuit of my career. Yeah. But dropping out of college, I felt like was the first decision that I ever really made for myself. And that was a decision that obviously I consulted and talked with my wife about, and we came to the conclusion that let's try it out. Let's stay in startups for just a little bit and let's see what we learned. And I learned so much in those first couple months of being in startups that, had I been trying to, juggle both being in school and being in startups, there's no way that I would have been able to learn all the lessons that I did if I was trying to juggle between the two. So that's kind of my story of dropping out of college. And I'd still have a year left if I hadn't dropped out of college, but it's pretty crazy. And it's been a fun couple of years.
That sounds like a fun couple of years. And as you've gone along this journey, going into startups, I mean, that's risky business. In the sense of what it is that you're going to do and how they're going to make revenue and eventually become profitable and move forward in that direction. So, and as I think about that, I think also about your work now with Silicon Slopes, and that's a nonprofit. So how did you make the leap from startups, which I'm thinking were for profit, and then you moved into a nonprofit?
Yeah. Well, the thing that has always led decisions of like where I'm going to move. So the first startup that I ever joined, we ran out of runway and we ended up going out of business. And, I had made this connection to the next person that I went and worked for. And the number one thing that I look for is, who's the team behind the project and where are we going? And I had gotten a little bit involved with Silicon Slopes about a year or two prior to when I actually joined. I went to really what I had searched for, again, going back to kind of my personality type, is I love human connection and finding other passionate people that are building things. And so I knew from a very, right when I got introduced to the concept of Silicon Slopes, which, if people aren't familiar, what it is we're a 501c3 nonprofit that works with the local startup and business ecosystem to connect people, connect people with businesses, and connect people with resources. And so as we're kind of the voice, hub, and heart of the local Utah ecosystem, I knew that I wanted to get involved in some sort of way where I could work with other business professionals. I was early on in my career. I wanted to learn how to advance. I just have my personality is I want to develop and become the best version of myself. And so as I got introduced to this concept of Silicon Slopes, I knew that I wanted to be involved. And the opportunity presented itself, and I learned about the team that was behind it. The big thing that Silicon Slopes does every year is a big business and tech convention / conference. Usually pulls about 15 to 20,000 people out to it. And there was just this energy there that was like, man, I want to get involved in this. I want to be on this team, and I want to figure out some way to do it. And so at the time, I had a friend that worked here at the organization, and I asked if I could, again, going back to the concept of Who Not How by Dan Sullivan, I knew how to do social media, and I knew how to do TikTok and social media strategy. And so I had a bunch of free time during the day here because I was managing a bunch of developers overseas. And I asked my friend if I could help out with the social media strategy for the upcoming summit. And that was August of last year. And within a couple of weeks, we found out wow, this is actually kind of a good fit. So I ended up coming on full time and made that transition, again, because of the team that was behind it and what we were building and where we were going. So.
Don't you love how he makes his own opportunities?
Yeah, I do. And recognizes and I was thinking, as you're talking about working with startups, the personality to be able to decide, you know what, I'm going to take a risk here and drop out of college and pursue something that I feel strongly about is a huge amount of the personality type that is drawn towards startups and creating something out of nothing to start with, which is where all businesses start with, is trying to create something out of an idea, usually.
Right. Exactly.
And then I love that passion led you to, I really, really am gravitating towards this idea of recognizing of the importance and the value of connecting people and resources with each other, which sounds like that's what the Silicon Valley or Silicon Slopes, is that right? Silicon Valley Slopes is all about, is connecting those people with each other and helping, because that's one of the things that I think really can be difficult when you are starting up, is that you need somebody, but you don't know who that person is. And so being able to have that opportunity to reach out and meet. So I was going to ask, when you were first impressed with, it was Ryan that you were talking to. I think that you had said that you recognized his ability. Is there something that you saw in him that helped him be able to do that? Was there some traits that you saw or things that he did that developed that quality in himself?
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind is that it wasn't his first rodeo. So he had previously built and sold a company, and he was doing it again. And I knew that, like, if he had built this company to an exit, that he knew what he was doing, and I wasn't afraid to work with him. But I also feel like the important thing is the ability to just, like, either trust or be able to have a pretty good gauge on if you're able to trust people or not. And I have this pretty good indicator of, like, this person's either good to work with or not good to work with. And I can usually tell off the first interaction. And so very, very good feeling off of that first interaction. And I mean, I was out of work. I had my first.
You're like, all right, let's take a chance.
I'll do anything. I mean, I even told I have so much respect for salespeople, but, like, I even told myself, I was like, I'll go out and I'll do cold calls and I will do sales, which is, like, my nightmare, because I just, like, love organic and authentic interaction. And my biggest fear would be calling people up on the phone and saying, hey, do you want to buy this product? Like, that would be my biggest fear. And so I even told myself, I was like, I've got a wife. We've got we're about to get a dog. Like, I will do whatever's necessary to provide for my family. So, that first interaction with Ryan, I noticed that it wasn't his first rodeo, and he knew what he was doing. And he also, he also had this vast network of people that would help him make things happen. And, he was a mechanical engineer. He'd owned a mechanical engineering firm. The Ring Doorbell team came to him and said, we have this idea for a product that we want to build. How do we build it? And he was that resource. And so I had seen this cycle over and over with him, where it wasn't a surprise to me of, like, man, is this really going to work out? But I knew that he had success because he had done it before.
Right. Go ahead.
Nope, you're up.
I was just going to ask you, as you learn about new people, is there something that you do on a regular basis that helps you kind of create some of those same relationships?
Yeah, my dad taught me a very important lesson when I was very young. I was about 16 or 17. And he told me the most important thing that you can do to build a relationship with someone is ask as many questions about them as possible. And just being a connector for people and not worrying about everyone knowing about what you do. Like, yes, I think it's important, like, if I'm meeting someone for the first time, obviously to share a little bit of experiences on my end, but my goal is to always walk away with being the person that asks more questions about the other person, because that allows me to build knowledge and really ingest everything that I can about that person, so that if I meet someone else along the way that I think would be a good fit, I'm able to make an introduction for them. So being a person that asks more questions rather than having the questions asked to is always my goal.
And as you said, the genuine curiosity is what you have. You really want to know and understand. Because you have that genuine curiosity, it helps in individuals to really be able to share what it is they're feeling, seeing, thinking, hearing, and that you can move forward with.
Yeah, absolutely. Everyone has a story that deserves to be told.
So tell us a little bit more about Silicon Slopes, how it got started, and what is, I know you mentioned just a little bit, but the mission, the vision of Silicon Slopes, what is that?
Yeah, so Silicon Slopes was started kind of in the mid/late early 2000s, between 2000 and 2010. And it was started by a local CEO and founder named Josh James, who's founded a company called Domo. And he realized that there was this, like, thriving and up and coming startup ecosystem. So we originally started as kind of an organization that just focuses on being a resource and helping the startups. But now over the last couple of years, we've transitioned just a little bit to be more of like a full business and professional resource hub inside of the state of Utah. So our CEO, Clint Betts, is a media virtuoso, just has this incredible ability to tell stories in a way that people have never heard them told before. And so Clint and Josh got together and had this idea to connect, take the media arm of what Silicon Slopes is and take the ability that we have to convene and gather people together and combine this into a mission of we connect people, we learn about people, and we serve people inside of the ecosystem. So learn, connect, serve are kind of our three pillars, and that's accomplished by being the voice, hub, and heart of the Utah business ecosystem. So we learn and connect with people through telling stories. We connect with people through creating and hosting events, and then we serve people and serve the community by rallying around and celebrating and telling stories and getting people together on missions and things that we want to accomplish as an ecosystem. So that's kind of the background on Silicon Slopes. And then obviously we have the Silicon Slopes Summit upcoming this year in September 27th and 28th of 2023. And that started, I think we're in the 8th year of the Silicon Slopes Summit. And we've had speakers like Tim Cook from Apple, Mark Zuckerberg from Meta, Liz Wiseman. We've had some incredible speakers come out and talk about, different business and startup topics. And that's kind of our main convening points that gathers around 15 to 20,000 people a year. So it's kind of the broad umbrella view of how Silicon Slopes got started and where we are today.
Well, you tell the story very well.
Yeah,
you've obviously told that one or two times before to other people.
This was my third time.
You did it really well.
Yeah.
I really like the learn, connect, serve. And as you were talking, I thought, for me personally, I was like, I have streaks around some of those and have thought about, even this morning I was telling you about setting streaks around additional ones that you said, but I would love to look at when you learn about people. I look at and think there's so many streaks that you could set around that about. So I just set a new streak to review a name or meet a new person every day. So to both help me branch out to meet new people, but also to remember people's names, to review people more often.
For the people that you've connected with.
For the people that I've connected with. Yeah. And then the idea of connecting people, as you were talking, I really enjoyed that you said the lesson you learned was to ask questions, but a background part of that was to not be thinking about yourself, but be really engaged in thinking about that other person. And then I thought, even taking it a step further, what you said was connecting those people with other people, which in my mind is another form of service, especially having just moved. You feel that loss of connection when you're like, wow, I just lost my whole foundation and all my peeps. I lost all my peeps. I don't know who to go to. So when you have people that are thinking about connecting, it's a huge service to people. And so I love that. Learn, connect, serve. That would be a great just foundation in life to set streaks around, to be something that you're focusing on doing both personally, and you guys do it as a business, but doing that as a personal kind of life way of living every day.
Yeah. Let me give one example there of kind of this concept of connecting, and that I honestly, I hadn't thought about connections being a way to serve, but now that you say that, like that, it makes total and complete sense. So one of the things that we've gotten to do here at Silicon Slopes over the last couple of months is there was a massive amount of tech layoffs here in the area over the last couple of months. Really started to hit in November, December. And we started to do these we started to do these hiring and networking fairs. So we would invite companies to come out and bring recruiters from their companies and really just connect with people that were looking for jobs or that were out of work. So we've done about 2 or 3 of them since middle of December. The first one we had about 450 people out to. Just an incredible opportunity for the community to come together and really build some positive energy around something that's not necessarily the most positive thing. But when one door closes, another one opens. And my favorite part about getting to be at these networking and hiring fairs is connecting. Again, it's not about me or our organization being there. What it's about is, and my favorite part is talking with all the candidates and the people that are looking for work, learning about their skills, their expertise and abilities, and then also being able to know every single company that's there and what positions they're hiring for, so that as I talk to one or the other, I'm able to go and make introductions for people that it makes sense to. Maybe X company has a business development role that's open, and I just met so-and-so that has 2 years experience in business development. So getting to meet 40 to 50 people learning their names, learning the companies that they might be a fit for, and connecting those together. That's just like the ethos of what Silicon Slopes is being able to be that connection point between the two dots, the line that connects them. So it's really fun, and one of my favorite parts of being here at Silicon Slopes, but it's awesome.
Who are some of the organizations that you work with at Silicon Slopes that that are involved with or actively participating with Silicon Slopes?
There's a lot. I mean, we work with, at our summit, we have anywhere from about 120 to 130 sponsors and partners. A lot of the local ones we work with, Kiln is a really big partner of ours. We do a lot of work with the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity. Basically any company in Utah, in some way, shape, or form, we've done work with them. I say Kiln because they're the most recent partner that we've done a hiring event for, but really we try to work with anyone that we can in a way to make a difference in the community. So I'm blanking on names right now.
I was
gonna lob pitch.
I was gonna ask, if people are interested in working with you, how do they go about doing that? Where do they start? If they're just listening to this and they're like, well, that sounds interesting and intriguing, what would they do?
Well, the easiest thing might just be to send me a message. You could send me a message on LinkedIn, or you could send me send me an email, ryan@siliconslopes.com. That's probably the best and easiest way to start with the least amount of friction. Or if you're just looking to learn more about the organization, you can go to siliconslopes.com, which is a really good starting point.
Fantastic.
So when you heard the word and the term Streakin, and it's an actual company, and it was a good friend of yours and ours, obviously, that introduced you to it, what were your thoughts? You're like a Utah company called Streakin. What is going on here?
Yeah, it's really funny that you say that. So my first interaction with the Streakin app actually came at a perfect time. So one of the things that I do on the side, I mentioned a year and a half ago, I was diagnosed with ADHD. And so since then, I've been documenting my entire experience of learning how to live as a high functioning adult with ADHD on TikTok. So I've been documenting that on TikTok. And I was in this phase where I was like, I'm going to try every single productivity tool that is out there. And so I actually got an email from Talon, who works on the Streakin team. And he's like, hey, I noticed that you talk a lot about productivity content. We've got this app that we're building, and I'd love to show it to you and give you a little demo. So my first interaction, we actually hopped on a call, and he showed me the product and shared it with me. And I was just like flabbergasted. I was like, this is like everything that I have been looking for. I love tracking habits. I love like anything that I can do to show consistency and growth over time. That was kind of the big thing for me. And he talked about how the Streakin team doesn't call habits, they call them streaks. And
yes.
So I love the concept of like, it's something that if you think about streaking, right? Like it's not something that you really stop doing. Like if you're streaking, you kind of have to keep going. Like,
right.
If you're streaking, you're going to get in trouble, and you're going to get caught if you stop. So
keep running.
Keep running. So I love the concept of streaking and keeping streaks active and going as part of this personal development. I've got 5 streaks that I track on a daily basis. 3 inside of personal development and 2 inside of spiritual development. And
okay,
so
that's great.
I track those streaks on a daily basis. And it really, for me, I have the reminders set up in a way where it allows me to report back to myself and hold myself accountable on a daily basis to be like, did I do this? And if I didn't, what am I going to do tomorrow to make sure that happens?
That I did do
That's
it.
great. Yeah, Jami calls her Streakin app the journal of her success.
Yes, a journal of my successes. Because at the end of the day, whatever the day looked like, there's things that I can look at and think, okay, I did this, I did this, I did this. And I don't have to hold myself to a level of quality all the time, because I can look at it and say the quantity of doing this, the consistency of doing it over time is going to add up and increase the odds significantly that my quality will increase and get better as well. And so I do love that. I love the idea of being able to, I love not the idea, but the actual process of looking at the end of the day at my streaks and being like, okay, these are the things that I accomplished today, and they were important to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and my the 5 things that I have inside of my streaks, I don't like to overcomplicate it. Like at the end of the day, to be productive, quote unquote, all you really need is a pen, a piece of paper, and the
Yes.
ability to prioritize.
Yeah.
But in order to be accountable, it does require on a daily basis the ability to hold yourself accountable and know what you're working towards. And so I've had this thought, and I'm going to go in and restructure my streaks just a little bit, and I'm going to call my folder the daily non-negotiables. And those are the things that I will not negotiate, that I have to do every single day, because as I do those 5 things, I notice a difference in how the rest of my day goes. If I can knock those 5 streaks out and do that in the morning, I always have a better day because I'm prepared. I've done the things that I know that I need to do. And it keeps me in this mindset of like, I've got some early wins in the day. Like I know that I can go on and win the rest of the day as I've done my daily non-negotiables.
Yeah, that's really good. The in the work that we've done in studying people who are successful in regards to streaking, every single one of them have what you just delineated are the daily non-negotiables and what they need to do on a either daily, weekly, or monthly basis that allows them to be who they want to be or aspire to that particular person that you have in their or that persona of a person that you want to aspire to be. So that's absolutely fantastic.
I agree. And just talking about when we were talking about streaking, and you're like, you don't want to stop when you start streaking. We have someone on our team
this is great.
who brought it up the other day, and he said, when I'm trying to describe streaking to people, I tell them they need to strip it down, get going, and keep going.
That's it.
And I thought, oh, that's a great way.
Whatever you want to look at, look at who you aspire to be, strip it
down to the simplest thing
and get going.
And then keep running.
Going because people are going to be chasing after you.
If we could, I would love to talk about, just real quick on your guys' side, the decision on how you guys came about with the logo for Streakin, because that is one of my favorite things about streaking. And I think that's a story that deserves to be told. I actually shared like a use case and explained the story behind it on my LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago, because I just love it so much. But yeah, I mean, do you guys want to explain a little bit of how you guys came about?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, we started off with a logo that was more honeycomb, and it was a honeycomb look, and it was all about who you want to be. And so we were talking about that bee as a honeycomb and what that looked like. And Talon came on, and we looked at this again, and we said, you know what? We don't know if that exactly represents who we are and what we're accomplishing and what it is we're doing in streaking. And so we brought on a brand designer. His name is Jace, fantastic brand designer. Do you know Jace, by the way? Is that a mutual contact? Yeah, okay. We'll have to introduce you to him. He's great. He's right here along the Silicon Slopes as well.
Love it.
But we brought him on, and we described to him who we were as streaking. And he went away, did his creative thing, and came back and said, okay, I want to show you what he typed in streaking into Google. And by the way, that's not a very dangerous thing to do, just so you know. It's and when I say that, because the first thing that comes up is like streaking your hair or streaking in a line or something like that. But everyone knows it as someone running across a football field naked is how streaking is typically known. And what Jace noticed is that every one of these individuals that were running across this football field naked had their arms in the air, and they were doing that. And then he typed in, he's like, well, let me type in the word celebration. And again, celebration and victory, everyone had their arms in the air, that they were accomplishing something or felt good about what it was that they were doing, or even acting in a sense of defiance against the norm and being able to break out of what it was that they were and becoming who they wanted to be. And so he took each one of these images and he drew a line over their hands being upraised, and then also, their face was a circle. And so what he came back with was this beautiful logo. And we'll give you a little bit of insight on this too. Because we were considering many, many different logos that were coming, but this one came back with a circle in the middle and then just a horizontal line underneath and 2 diagonal lines, which looks like a person raising their hand and in victory. And here was the litmus test, and you'll appreciate this, Ryan. So Jami is the one that I'm the salesperson in the family, and she is the realist saying that will work or not work. And so as I saw this logo and I thought, oh, that's really cool. However, we need to have Jami look at it. And I was really concerned because she loved the logo that we had previous to this. And so it came up on screen and
I absolutely loved it immediately drawn to because of what it communicated. First of all, I was so impressed that he was able to take something. He did look at all of these people streaking and able to see what was happening in their lives, this idea of victory, and being able to recognize that that's what streaking is it's a little bit defiant and a little but celebratory, and also just victory. And so being able to represent that was amazing that he was able to come up with that. And so as soon as we saw it, and it was a fascinating thing because you're right, I did love our original logo.
I mean, you were like, I don't know if I want
was
because the
like,
previous
do we need to
logos
change?
weren't quite there, and you're just like, I don't think we need
But
to change.
the minute I saw it, it was one of those things where you didn't know what you needed until you saw it, and then the minute you saw it, you're like, that's perfect. How have we even functioned without this? How have we gotten this far not realizing that this is what it was supposed to be? And since then, it has just been, it's such an iconic representation of what we're trying to communicate, which is that you can have personal winning victories in your life set around anything. And that's really where my passion comes for streaking is the idea that you can be successful, that you can give yourself permission 100% of the time to be successful. And it's in the way that you're able to set these things up for yourself.
Yeah.
So,
I love that. And expanding on that just a little bit, as obviously a user of the Streakin app, I think my favorite thing about it, and again, I've been in brand strategy and content strategy for a long time. There's kind of this delineation of like good, better, best when it comes to logos and branding. I think a good/better logo is memorable, but I think the best logos are actionable. And I love that every single time inside of the app, when you hit the check mark that you hit your streak for the day, the Streakin logo pops up and it celebrates that personal win.
yes.
So I love that. Kudos to you guys and your team for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for joining us
Thanks so
today,
much.
Ryan. We've really enjoyed the conversation and your path and journey in life. We're excited to keep connection with you so that we can follow along with you and hopefully be a contributor to Silicon Slopes as we, grow this business, grow the streaking business, and get many, many more people. Our mission statement is to influence and impact billions of people around the world to improve their own lives, others' lives, and the world around them. And that's what we hope to do with streaking. So thank you for joining us today.
Yes, thank
Just
you.
give us a real quick, again, how people contact you. You said LinkedIn, but give your email address just one more time.
Yeah, best way to contact me is on social media at It's Ryan Boswell, on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, it's just Ryan Boswell, and then on email, it's ryan@siliconslopes.com.
We've been talking with Ryan at Silicon Slopes. He's absolutely fantastic. Streakers, if you'd like to get a hold of Jami or I, you can do so through the Streaking app, but also if you want to email us directly, it's Jeffrey, Jeffery, at thestreakingapp.com, or
Jami, Jami, at thestreakingapp.com.
of course, you can download the Streaking app and just see all kinds of personal victories and winning streaks that are out there at the Apple App Store, or at Google Play. Always, we appreciate you guys listening and chiming in. If you ever have any feedback or questions, please reach out to us. Until we talk again.
Keep streaking.
Better you.